Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, well, you know the score. I review many photographic, audio and video related products. And if you're new here, well, that's great. What I do is review all sorts of products, and today we're taking a look at a lens for the Sony E-mount system. I'm actually using Sony's a great deal now for my video content. I'm finding them great. They're very, very responsive, and you know, there's many videos I've done online about the Sony cameras, so we won't go too far into detail on that. But what we're looking at today, and I've got to refer to my notes, is the Tamron 28-75mm F2.8 DI3 RXD lens. Oh geez, well, I'm just going to refer to it as the Tamron 28-75 full frame lens, designed for the Sony full frame cameras, such as the A9s, the A7s, from the original A7 right up to the A7III, the A7Rs, etc, etc, and also the new A7C. It's a great lens, and it's compact actually. It's quite a compact lens for you know, as far as mirrorless go, and particularly as it goes as far wide as f2.8. I'm actually filming with the Tamron 2.8 lens, the 28-75 f2.8 today, and it's fitted to my Sony A7III. I'm actually recording onto the Atomos recorder. I'm doing that purely so it retains autofocus. It retains face detection autofocus. You have to output it via HDMI to a monitor, because the A7III hasn't got that tilty-wilty and flippy screen like the A7C has, which is their new camera, and the A7S Mark III, and also like my ZV-1, which is getting the close-ups of the camera. So got that out of the way. Yeah, so the Tamron lens is designed for the Sony full frame bodies, and it's a 28-75 in full frame terms, but you can use it on your APS-C bodies, such as the A6600, 6100s, etc, and that would be equivalent to 42 to 115. So that's quite a nifty range. I'm not quite sure what the motivation would be to buy a full frame lens to use on your APS-C bodies, unless you're thinking ahead. If you're investing in the Sony system, but you don't want to invest in full frame initially, then yeah, it may well be wise to buy the APS-C bodies and buy full frame lenses for your APS-C body. I'm not so sure I subscribe to that theory. I've got lenses for both, so I've got my APS-C lenses, I've got me full frame, pretty much actually for one lens, because it's 28-75 for what I'll be using it for, does all. And I'll show you a nifty little trick if you're doing video, if you're using it on one of the Sony full frame bodies. The sharpness from this lens is great. It's really, really good. It has taken me a bit of getting used to though, because there is no image stabilization in the lens, and that's how they've managed to make it more compact. If it had image stabilization, it would be a bigger lens, it would be heavier, and it would be more costly. So, you know, when you look at those factors, they've been able to bring the price down because of those factors. And as I say, it's a great lens. I'll show you some images so you can actually see for yourself how good this lens is. you see, it's, you know, the images that come off this lens are great. They're sharp, even at wide open at f2.8. I try to shoot around f4, certainly at f2.8. I'm shooting at f2.8 today, just to show you what it can do at f2.8. But I have got my variable ND filter screwed to the front of the lens. It's a 67mm filter thread, so that's pretty decent. You know, it's not an expensive filter thread. It's quite small actually, as far as, you know, f2.8 lenses go. The weight of this lens, just so you know, does it say what the weight is? I'm not so sure it does. Yeah, 550 grams. So it weighs 550 grams, which is pretty decent for a full frame lens. And it works beautifully with the A7III. But as I say, it did take me a little bit of getting used to, simply because there is no image stabilization in the lens. I wasn't getting initially tag sharp images until I realized I really ought to shoot at a slightly faster shutter speed. And then I was getting tag sharp images. And I also found, nothing to do with the lens, to do with the A7III. The animal eye detect isn't as efficient as it is on the A6600. The animal eye detect on the A6600 is phenomenal. It really nails it. It's really, really good. Yeah, that's, you know, as I say, what you're looking at now is the Tamron 28-75. I think you'll find the image quality is great. I'm looking at it on the Atomos recorder. It looks pretty decent. And, you know, in fact, it looks very decent. And that's even with the ND filter on. Now, the great thing with this combination, if I wanted to get in tighter, particularly for video, I wouldn't use this feature for stills, but for video, I can actually switch it to APS-C mode, or Sony called it Super 35mm mode. That works on both the A7III, which I'm using here, the A7R2, the A7R3, the A7R4, etc., etc. And for video, it's great because you get that extension. So at the moment it's a 28-75. If I put it in APS-C mode, then straight away I've got 42 to 115. So it's a great feature, and you're not losing quality, particularly if you're shooting in 4K. It's using a cropped part of the sensor, so you're not getting that full frame aesthetic that you would do in full frame. But you're not losing the 4K quality. You're still getting the full 4K quality, and that is great. I wouldn't use this feature for stills, certainly not on the A7III, because it'd cut it down to about 10 megapixels, and that's a bit pointless on, you know, a full frame body, and also it'd be APS-C as opposed to full frame. But that feature would work on something like the A7R 2, 3 and 4, because they're a larger sensor. So, you know, a 42 megapixel sensor cut down to about 20 megapixel, you could certainly get away with it. And again, I can't see the logic behind that, but you can do it. So now let's go into APS-C mode so you can see what this lens can do on the same camera in APS-C mode. Now the camera is in exactly the same position, but I've now got it in APS-C mode. So you see it's cropped in, and it's cropped in quite nicely. I haven't adjusted the lens. I'm around the sort of 65mm mark, maybe 65-70 on the lens. So I'm not completely all the way in, but I'm not far off. So I think you'll find that's quite a nice crop, and it's quite a nice aesthetic. And isn't that a great option with, you know, full frame lenses on, you know, full frame body? If you do need that extra stretch, what's the word I'm looking for? That extra zoom in capability, that's a good enough word. You've got it with the full frame lenses. It's a great little trick. I've assigned a function button on the back of the A7III so I can go straight into crop sensor mode, or Super 35mm mode. Now, on some of the earlier Sony bodies, you had to go into the menu to do that, but they changed that with the A7III, and it's wonderful. Just a push of a button and you're straight into Super 35mm mode. Brilliant for video producers, which means you've got one lens and you've got basically from 28 to 115. Yeah, 28 to 115 range. So what a great combination without losing quality, because you're still shooting in 4K, so you're getting great quality. So there we go. That's my initial thoughts. There will be a link in the description to my Flickr page, so you can actually view in more detail the images taken with this lens. And I think you'll find, like I did, They are great. It's a really, really nice lens, and that's going to stay on my A7 III because it's a good all-rounder. It's a lovely weight, it's not heavy to carry around, and it's producing great quality. Just be conscious though that it hasn't got the image stabilization in the lens, so you need to be a little bit conscious of that so you don't go too slow a shutter speed. Even though the camera's got in-body image stabilization, it doesn't seem to work great with this particular lens, unless I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I am, I don't know. So there we go, that's a quick introduction to the Tamron 28-75 F2.8 DI version 3 lens. I think that's what we call it. It's a great lens. Yeah, the other thing, do check that when you buy the lens, it's got version 3 software, version 3 firmware in the lens. Because some of the earlier ones that came out in the early days, particularly if you're buying used, do check that, because the autofocus had issues. They cured that with version 3 firmware. And a great thing is you can update the firmware through the camera body. So it's brilliant. Mine actually is version 3, I did check that. So that's all you need to do. So there we go. I've taken the Tamron 28-75 off my A7 III, basically so I can show you it. And here it is. It's a great lens. It is plastic built, but you know, it would be to keep the weight down and keep the price down. But it has got a metal mount, so the mount is actually metal, and it's got the rubber gasket around the mount for weather sealing. So I don't think it's going to be fantastic weather sealing, but it's, you know, it'll do the job in, you know, light rain or whatever. 67mm filter thread, I think I said that earlier, so you can mount many different filters. I had my variable ND filter to it fitted to it earlier, but I think I may have said earlier, I don't know if I did, but the zoom ring is at the front. It's swapped round really. I'm used to having the focus at the front and the zoom at the back. They've got it the other way round. The zoom is at the front of the lens and not the back. You got the focus at the back, which is fine because once you get used to it, it's not an issue. It just took me a little bit of time, you know, to get used to that. But yeah, nicely made lens with great image quality, as I said. So there we go. That's the Tamron 28-75. It comes complete with a lens hood, and nothing exciting about the lens hood. It's a plastic construction lens hood. But it fits fine. You know, it does the job at the end of the day, and it does it fine. So yeah, no complaints with that. What more can I say about it? It's yeah, decent lens. There we go. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you found that useful. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. It really helps me grow the channel, and you know, I really enjoy making these videos. Every piece of kit that I demonstrate when I use, I've actually purchased out my own pocket. I haven't been given it, loaned it, or anything like that. So they're completely unbiased reviews. It's exactly what I think of them, and you know, that's about it. So thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and hit the like button. Thanks very much, and stay tuned for more videos relating to video and photography. Cheers for now. Bye.